Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we have this 2023 Infiniti QX50 and we're going to do the side chrome delete installation for this vehicle. So as you can see, this is how it looks before doing the installation on the side trim. It's just a regular chrome panel, and this is how it looks after the installation. So we use the gloss black material, that way it matches the color of the pillars and it also gives the vehicle a more sportier look. If you like the product, link for the product will be linked below. But with that being said, let's get started with the installation video. So before we start with the installation, we need to make sure we prep each panel. So to prep it, all you need is water and baby shampoo mixed together in a spray bottle. Once you have your solution, spray it onto a clean microfiber towel and make sure to start removing any contaminants that each panel may have. And then once you're done cleaning the panel, make sure that everything's completely dry as well. That way there's no water residue left over, and it will cause some damage to the adhesive side if there is any water residue left over. So even if you apply heat, it's not going to tack down because the water touched the adhesive side of the film. So make sure that everything's completely clean and dry. Okay, so we're going to start off with the top piece first. So with this one, just place it onto the chrome panel. That way you can use both hands in order to align the film right on the edge here. So with this one, to make it easier when it comes to aligning, align it with the bottom section of the panel first. That way you have more coverage on the bottom here. So align it there, follow the design as you go. And then once you get around here, then just give yourself a little bit more material in order to cover underneath the panel here. Another thing you can do in order to have more coverage is roll the window down. That way you're able to wrap the film around and tuck it in underneath the panel. So just follow, make sure you're following the design until you reach it to here. So once you finish placing the film, if you have a little bit of excess material, like I mentioned, you can wrap it underneath in order to cover the chrome here. Just apply a little bit of heat and it will help you wrap around underneath. But if you feel this is not enough material, you can always lift the film carefully. That way you have more coverage to wrap underneath. Before we tuck in underneath, make sure you grab your squeegee and tack down everything on the front section first. Make sure to remove any air bubbles that may be underneath the film. Help it tack down, and then apply heat in order to wrap it underneath the panel here. So just grab your heat gun, start applying heat, start from one end, and work your way to the other side. Something to keep in mind when you're doing this though, is you don't need too much material to cover underneath here. You only need a little bit, because if you have a lot of excess material here, and if the window goes up and down, it might bring the film down. So you only need enough in order to cover the edge here. Also, if you do have a little bit of excess material on the top area, the good thing about this one is you can move the gasket just a little bit in order for you to tuck it underneath. But just make sure as you're tucking it underneath, you apply heat, that way the adhesive is able to tack down. So you would just carefully take your time and just move the rubber gasket to the side and tuck it in. And all you need to do is just trim off the excess material and then apply heat one more time, and then you move on to the next piece. Okay, so now we're moving on with the bottom piece. So with this one, same process. Just place the film down and start off by aligning it on this edge first. Make sure you have enough coverage in order to cover the chrome. So it should be like this. Once you align it, carefully lift it and just use this lower section as the guide in order to align the film to the panel. So just like that, once you place the film and it's been aligned, grab your squeegee and start tacking down the entire film. Just make sure you go on each section, remove all the air that's underneath the film, help it tack down, and then once we finish tacking it down, we're going to apply heat just to help the adhesive on the film activate faster and start molding to the panel. Okay, now apply heat, and then once we finish applying heat, we'll trim off any extra material we have. Okay, if you do have some excess material on the top edge, what you can do is create an outline of where you need to trim. So just follow the design of the panel on this section. They're both the same, or you could just lift the film from this end, and you would see where the chrome ends, and you would just follow it until you see you need to trim. So just create the outline. That is very important, creating the outline. That way you have an idea of where you're going to trim. Once that outline has been created, slowly start trimming off the excess material. And with this one too, you can move the rubber gasket just a little bit more inside, that way you have a small gap in order to trim off the excess material. And you don't need to apply too much pressure, you just need enough in order to trim off the film. And then don't forget about the edge, and everything should just come off like that, up to where you finish trimming. And that's pretty much it. And now just apply heat one more time to help the film tack down wherever we trimmed off, and then we move on to the rear door. So with this piece, the same steps that were done for the front section, you would repeat it for this one. It's just aligning it to the edge. Make sure you give yourself a little bit of material to wrap underneath here, and then just following the design as you go, placing it. Once you place it, first work the flat area first in order to tack it down and remove any air. And with this one, you could tuck in the film underneath the pillar. Just be careful not to put too much force. It should go underneath, and then just apply heat to seal this edge, and then we'll trim off excess material afterwards. So now we're moving on to the lower section here. So with this one, align it right on the edge first. Once you align it, same process as how we did it for the front piece. You would just follow the lower section as the guide in order to align the rest of the film. And then you would just grab your squeegee, start tacking it down. And once you finish tacking it down, apply heat and then create that outline. That's how we did it on the front. And then trim off the extra material on each side, here and on the top. Okay, so we're moving on with this piece now. So with this one, we recommend aligning it on this curved area first. That way you give yourself a little bit more material to cover the curve on this section here. You only need a little bit of material to cover this curved edge here. Once you have it there, just follow the design of the panel as you go until you reach it here. And then grab your squeegee, start tacking it down. Focus on the flat area first. That way we're able to tack this whole section down. So it should be like that. Before we trim off any excess material, we're going to apply heat all over the film to help it tack down around the curve or underneath the panel or on the top. So just grab your heat gun, apply heat all over the panel. Okay, and now once you finish applying heat, you would trim off the excess material that we don't need. So for example, here on this edge, we don't need this anymore. Remove it carefully, and then same for the top and around this section here. So just take your time. There is a small gap where you can insert your blade. Just trim it off carefully. And then remove whatever you don't need. And once you finish trimming off the excess material, apply heat one more time. That way the film is able to tack down, and then we move on to the next piece. Okay, so now we're moving on with this piece. So with this one, just place it on the panel for now. That way you're able to align it on this section first. So just align it to the curved design, and then everything else should fall into place here. It should be good. Now we can finish off aligning the rest of the film here. And just follow the design until you reach to the bottom edge. And if you need to lift the film, in order to readjust it, you can. Just lift it carefully. That way you don't accidentally tear the film. So here, we might need to lift it again. And it's just about fixing the film until you get this right curve here. And slowly lift the film, that way you're able to tack down and wrap it around this curve here. And then with this one, the material you have extra on the top, you just tuck it in underneath. Apply heat on the curve area like how we did on the top. That way it can wrap around, and then just finish off tacking on the rest. And you're gonna do the same here. Apply heat to help it tack down around the curve. And with this one, you want to remove the tension that you may encounter on this top edge. So in order to remove that tension, just lift the film carefully, squeegee it, and then place it back down. That way it feels flush and there's no air in the middle section of this curve here. So now just apply heat around the curves, tack everything down, and then we'll trim off extra material. Okay, and then trim off any extra material you have. Okay, so with this one, all you need to do is just align it where you left off with this corner edge here. So make sure you have coverage on the top and on the bottom as you're aligning. And then after, just follow the design of the panel underneath in order to align it and then tack it down. So grab your squeegee, secure the film to the panel. And then once you finish tacking it down, apply heat to help the film tack down more faster to the panel. And all you need to do is just remove the extra material that we don't need. And then for the top, same process as we did for this one. Find that gap between the actual panel and the gasket. So when you lift it, that's where it's located. And create your outline. And then you would just trim off the extra material. So when it comes to installing the Chrome Delete on the side piece where the fender is located, just make sure you're giving yourself enough material to cover the top and work your way until you make it to this edge here. So make sure you have coverage on top, on the curve here, and that's pretty much it. You would grab your squeegee, start tacking everything down to secure it, and make sure to remove any air bubbles underneath the film. And just grab your heat gun, apply heat to the panel. That way the film starts molding to the design of the panel, and then we could trim off the extra material afterwards. With this one, you could tuck it underneath. Just make sure as you're tucking underneath, you apply heat. That way the adhesive on the film is able to tack down and seal without lifting over time. And do the same here. Just lift it a little bit, tuck in whatever material fits underneath, and then the rest will be excess material. And now just trim off excess material. Carefully insert the blade underneath the panel and then just trim it off. Also on the edges here, that way it's a perfect cut and it lines up to the trim that was made. And then just tuck it underneath and you should be good. And then just trim off here. There is a small gap. Just insert your blade carefully and trim off the excess material. And now you move on to the door handles. So when it comes to the door handles, all you need to do is just make sure you align it to the cutout of the door handle, and everything else should just fall into place. For these door handles, once you place it, grab your squeegee and start tagging it down to secure it. Make sure to remove any air that may be trapped underneath the film. Squeegee and tag down. And now all you need to do is apply heat to help the film tack down to the handle. For this part where the keyhole is located, just apply heat and then just help it tack underneath here like this. It's not going to cover all the way inside because it's a little bit too deep in, but it's going to cover enough to where at least it covers this section of the chrome here where it's more exposed. And then once you're done applying the film, create the outline of where the door handle is located. And if you have any excess material anywhere around the edges, you would just trim that off. And then the same steps that were done for this door handle, you would repeat it for the other ones. So once you finish with the whole installation for the side chrome panel, the last thing to do will be to grab your heat gun and start applying heat to each section that was installed of the panel. And the reason we're doing this is just so we can help the adhesive on the film activate faster, and if there's still any film lifting on any edge of the panel that was worked on, just help it tack back down. And just take your time going to each section, making sure everything's tacked down. Apply heat evenly everywhere, and then once you're done with this step, you're done with the installation. Thank you for choosing BowerTech Design. As a small business, your support means everything to us. If you loved your product, please drop a review. If you have questions or issues, don't forget to message us via email. Once again, thank you so much for the support from our family to yours. So that concludes the installation video for the side chrome delete installation for the 2023 Infiniti QX50. We hope that this video helped you guys out with the installation. If it did, don't forget to drop a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe and turn on that notification bell. That way you don't miss any of our upcoming installation videos. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.